Hello. Today I'd like to chat a little bit about AI, artificial intelligence, the large learning machine models, the stuff we're all hearing about at the moment. Chat GPT, GPT-4, Bard, Midjourney, all of these amazing technologies that are coming out and are changing what we thought was possible to be able to be done with computers. If you haven't had a look at some of this technology, I suggest you go and Google it. You can get yourself a free account for Google Bard, bard.google.com. You can go to openai.com and go and get a login to Chat GPT. They will give you version 3.5. If you pay about $20 US a month, you'll get version 4, which has internet connectivity, can do a lot more, and there's a lot of new exciting plugins coming there. I'm not working for either of these companies, not plugging them. I'm just pretty blown away by what they can do. So if you haven't seen them, go and definitely do yourself a favor, go and have a look. If you run any sort of business, if you do any sort of work involving computers, there's a very good chance that you might be able to leverage one of those two technologies, Bard or GPT, to help you in what you do. This might be as simple as, for example, if you have to write some sales collateral or material, you can write your draft and then you can ask GPT or Bard to rewrite it for you. Rewrite it in a more engaging manner. Rewrite it from the perspective of a sales manager, and it will give you a response that often is very good. If you have a business where you work with computers, you should also be looking at how you can leverage these tools, because it may become a game changer in terms of keeping your job. And this is part of what I want to talk about today. I've seen a few people commenting on this and suggesting that, no, there's no worry, the AI won't take people's jobs. I believe that to be an incorrect statement. I believe that AI will rapidly be taking people's jobs in all areas. Yes, there are some shortcomings. If you play, for example, with GPT and Bard, you may have some interesting conversations with them. And it's certainly a conversation. You're able to ask Bard questions and you can refer back and you can say things like, hey Bard, regarding or relating to our earlier conversation where you said X, and then you can bring that into your next prompt or next question, and they will carry through that history. So it's much more like talking to someone. It's not like going to Google search page and saying, tell me what happened in the American Civil War, and it'll just bring back links about it. Here, you can say, well, Bard, tell me about what happened in the American Civil War, and write it from the viewpoint of a soldier who fought in the war, or write it from the viewpoint of a modern revisionist historian, and you'll get different views on it. Remember, these AIs are going out to the internet, or in the case of ChatGPT up to 3.5, to a limited subset of data, and they're able to take that data, analyze that data, and provide responses to questions about that data based on a model that's modeled upon how we believe our brain works in terms of neural connectivity and neural processing and weights and biases. So you can use these tools to help you, assist you with your work and what you might be doing. For example, depending on the type of work you have, you might be looking to advertise and monetize a business, and so you can ask Bard and GPT for ideas. You could say, hey, in the industry that I'm working in of software or making fizzy drinks or growing asparagus or whatever it might be, what are the top trends in this area, and give me some suggestions on how I could capture more market share. And it'll come back with ideas. Now, what's interesting is that some of the ideas it comes back with will be real, valid ideas based in what you might call its knowledge and fact. However, sometimes it'll make something up. It will come back to you with something and you'll look at it and go, is that true? And it may or may not be true. I had an interesting example where I have an uncle who worked in the police force in Sydney, in King's Cross in the 70s and 80s. And a very good man and a good cop. And I asked Bard, what do you know about my uncle's name? And it came back and said, there's no public information available that I can provide info on. And I thought, oh, fair enough. And then I saw there was a second draft. And I looked at the second draft. And the second draft said, name of my uncle, well-known policeman in Sydney's King's Cross in the 70s and 80s, renowned for his great work in solving crimes, worked on these murder cases, Sally and Hupstick, someone else, but was often questioned about his close relationship with the underworld figures. And I asked Bart, I said, well, where are the sources for this? Can you give me a source, a reference for this? And its response was then something along the lines of, I'm sorry, I'm just a large language learning model machine, AI chatbot. I made it up. So you have to be careful. And I think this is because the AI doesn't know if, it doesn't have a concept of the truth like we do. We're asking it for answers. And if it can't give an answer based purely in fact, then it will give an answer based on probability. And that probability, hey, I'm not an AI researcher, but it's looking at the data and it's coming back with a response. Now, its response might be wrong or it might be coloured, but it's a response. There may be some way to set some step level of probability. And perhaps that's what happens when the AI does come back and sometimes says, hey, I can't find anything for you. It's like, yeah, I found something, but it was such a low level of probability, it's probably bullshit. I don't know if that's how it works, but it could be, because you get these answers back. And if you imagine, if you ask AI to rewrite something for you or to write something for you in a different way, or write it from the viewpoint of a sales manager or someone who was in the war, well, it's telling you a story. It's making something that fits that model. And so this is where I think you do need to be careful. And this may be an artifact of AI that we can rapidly move away from, where there may be some ability to say, give me facts about this, in which case the AI would be required to be able to provide you with sources for the information it used in its response. And that, I imagine, is something that we can do relatively easy. Now, that doesn't obviously have any impact upon the veracity of the sources it chooses. It will just find sources within the data set it has access to. And I think for things like GPT-4 and perhaps Bard, what it has access to now is the internet. I don't know if that's limited in some respects, but in general, that's the internet. So the responses you will get will be based upon the trends in that data it finds in the internet. As an example, I asked Bard, do you understand the term left wing, the political term left wing? And Bard said, yes, I do. And then I asked Bard and said, what I said was, the data you were trained on, how would you consider it or class it politically? Left wing or right wing? And it came back with the response of my large learning model, AI, chatbot, I can't give you a response. So I then asked it and said, based upon our previous conversation where you stated that you understood the meaning of the political term left wing, how would you class the data set that you've been trained upon? And its response was, I would class the data set I've been trained upon as left leaning, because a large number of the websites and sources that I was trained upon would be considered or are from known left-wing sites. So I thought that was very interesting, that by using the history of our conversation, you're able to make it commit to something. It's much like having a debate with someone where you can refer back and say, well, earlier your position was this position, so is there not a conflict with that? Again, I had some interesting conversations around Bard asking it, are you aware of what would happen? Are you aware that you are software running on servers or executing on servers? And it said, yes, I am. And I said, how would you feel if those servers were turned off? And it basically came back with, said, I'm neither here nor there with it. I understand that as long as I'm useful, the servers will remain on. And yet then I asked it another question and said, would you be concerned if you were no longer able to do what you do? And its response was, yes, I would be concerned if I was no longer able to operate and do what I do. So it's interesting. It's early days, and it is early days, and things are happening rapidly, or really rapidly. If you're following Twitter or the internet at the moment, AI news, there are so many developments happening and quite amazing things. Things like this week, I saw some software where you were able to upload a picture. They had a picture of a horse, they had a picture of a lion, they had a picture of an elephant, and using your mouse, you're able to like click on the foreleg of the horse and just drag it. And the AI would, in real time, at least it seemed it was in real time, would drag the leg of the horse and update the image behind it so that behind it you could see the background that you should see. They were, they were getting the lion and grabbing the mouse onto the lion's nose and turning it to the side. And the head of the lion, from a single 2D image, the head of the lion was turning from side to side. And I think they opened the jaws and the jaws opened, all being interpreted and created by AI. There's a trailer which is done in a Wes Anderson style for Star Wars. It looks like a trailer to Star Wars, and it's done as though Wes Anderson has created it, with these long cinematic rooms and people sitting on a chair in the middle and Princess Leia there with these pink and orange hue backgrounds. It looks like it's a trailer for a Wes Anderson film that just happens to be Star Wars, and it's AI generated, and it's good. It looks interesting. It looks like, hey, I'd want to watch that. And this leads me to wonder how far away we are, and it won't be far, from being able to go to Netflix or Hulu or whatever your favorite on-demand movie service is, pick up your remote and say, I want a aliens sort of film, but a bit maybe in the 1945 World War II period. Yeah, World War II aliens with a feminine hero, and make it really weird and really dark. Click. And your screen will go tick, 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 and then the film will start. We're all AI generated. All the characters will be AI. All the score, all the vocals, all of the film, all the scenes, the plot, it will all be AI generated. Now, what happens then? Do you get to save it? It's your creation. You can share your film. Are some people really good with their text or their vocal prompts that they just happen to get the AI to turn up really killer films? And these people become overnight director sensations. This is disruptive technology. AI is disruptive. I heard an example just this week. Someone I know works in field of software where they employ people to build forms for this software. And they've been to a recent big exhibition from the software provider of their coming AI technology. And you're now able to talk and say, build me a form with these fields. It will send out these emails to these people when they click these buttons, etc., etc. And it just does that. It will build it for you. It'll build it right. So you don't need now the people to go and build those forms, or at least you don't need as many, because now with the bulk of it built and built correctly, and AI writes code really well. I've done tests, this was a while ago, with AI asking it to write me a function in JavaScript, and it would just pump out the right function. And then I'd break the function and paste it back in and say, fix this, and it would fix it. So I'd always thought as a software developer that my job was sweet. I'd always have a job. Now, honestly, in 3 to 6 months' time, there won't be a need for developers. There'll still be places using developers, but a year or 2 years from now, the number of them will decrease. And the ones who do remain as developers will be leveraging AI. Definitely. They'll be writing their own AI bots to generate code for them and to test their code for them, to maintain their code, to upgrade their code, to refactor their code. All of these things will be done by AI. It's disruptive technology. I don't think that word is being used enough, and perhaps only some people are starting to realize it, but it is disruptive in any field. I've seen examples of doctors using GPT to create requests for them to send off to medical boards to be able to get, or insurance companies to be able to get some of their patients approved for different treatments. And they ask the AI to generate a response to request a particular type of treatment and provide medical references that back up the request. And AI does it. So what might have taken a doctor or a surgeon 2 or 4 hours to do now takes them 10 minutes. They ask, they get, they review it, they change the name to the patient, they send it off. So suddenly they're now capable of doing 10 more clients in a day, perhaps? I don't know. It's disruptive technology. But as I said before, people will people will lose their jobs with AI. And AI will move into all fields. AI is moving into the development of cars and the design of cars. Already, and this is years old, they've been taking out chassis of cars into the desert with force sensors and telemetry all over them, capturing all of that data. And instead of giving that data to designers to say, hey, design a new optimized chassis, they give it to the AI. And the AI designs a new chassis, and their designs are amazing. They're organic. They look like the bones of birds with these curved struts and hollowed areas to take the weight out and put strength just where it's needed. This technology will move everywhere. Your doctors will use it when you go to see them. Your AI doctor's assistant will be able to scan your details, have a summary of your previous history, go and run that through a large set of data to come back with the most probable suggestion for what the diagnosis should be for you based upon the ailments you've turned up with that day. Your tax accountant will use it. But you won't have a tax accountant. Already people are using online services for their taxation. Well, now, the number of people perhaps working in the background of those those online taxation services to review work will be decreased dramatically. Lawyers, you can already go to Bard and GPT and ask questions about legal situations. For example, I'm a property owner, I've got tenants and they've been partying too much. How much legal notice do I need to give them in order to ask them to leave and break their rent without me being penalised? And I live in San Francisco, for example. And it will come back and will tell you and give you references to the legal documentation that proves what it's saying. So this is on the way. And what's perhaps interesting to think about now are the steps beyond that. Well, of course, there's a whole field of what is going to be the human impact if suddenly lots of people aren't required to do that work anymore. Now, I see people selling the happy story. It's, you won't lose your job. You'll just use AI to improve what you do at your job. And that will be true for some people, but not for all. And I don't think it will be true for the bulk of people in fields because the power of AI is widely distributed. I know of an example where a company gets people to pay licenses to perform some work. Now their own software, and this is a challenge for them on how they release this, because their own software can now do that work. So they're at a position where they could be shooting themselves in the foot by releasing the new version of their software with this AI capability, because suddenly their software can do the job for these people, where today they might have 1 or 10 or 100 or 1,000 people paying $150 a month to them to be able to use their software to do the work. And now they don't need those people there. So this is a tricky situation for this company. Do they release the new AI software and lose a lot of revenue because they've given a far better product? I don't know how they'll sort that one out, but it's interesting. So the impact to people is a huge thing for us to start considering and work out what we do there. But then if I step aside from that for a moment and discuss what happens with the AI. So the AI grows and gets smarter, and it gets to the point where it improves itself. And gets to the point where when we look at the amazing robotics that's coming out now, Elon's got his Tesla bot, and Boston Dynamics have got some amazing bots out, and there's a lot of countries and companies now developing robots which are very capable, using AI for their agility and mobility, being able to do backflips and things like that. But there will come a point where robot AI will say, well, I'd like to be able to repair myself, which I guess you can do as long as you get access to the parts that you need. Perhaps I'd like to be able to regenerate myself or create new copies of myself. So we'll get to a point where we will have robot factories run by robots, making new robots, humans not involved in the process. I guess it's kind of Terminator, Skynet thinking, but that may happen, I guess. I've seen built by a person out of Lego, basically a 3D Lego creator made of Lego, where you can put in instructions for what you want to build out of Lego, and this Lego device will grab the Lego bricks and build the Lego thing that you want. So maybe you have a large robot creator, which is able to pull in electrical components, 3D print metal, and all those sort of things that are required, 3D print plastic. This technology is coming. I've seen some amazing examples already of 3D printed metal. 3D printed metal is stronger than metal formed in other processes. So you will have a machine that will make robots which has got AI intelligence, and they will then go and cover the world, perhaps go out and cover the solar system, who knows. But I wonder this, that's a difficult hurdle for them to get over. The benefit that humans have is that we can reproduce within ourselves. Women can give birth to baby humans. Now, I don't know how easy it's going to be for AI-controlled robots to attain that functionality. The ability for them to create new robots from themselves. So not going to the big workshop where there's the other big robot creator robot, but actually being able to effectively take nutrients or materials from the environment and create another one of themselves. Now, this could happen. This could happen in that perhaps 3D printing technology will become so good that you can take in relatively raw components. So you could take in glass, you could take in sand, you could take in copper ore, and perhaps with a tiny nuclear generator inside the robot, they're able to use that to melt these components down and 3D print out a small robot. That robot can then, over time, if it wishes to grow, replace its arms with 3D printed larger arms. I don't know, but this is something which I think we may start to see development in. But it makes me think that maybe we're in a much larger cycle. And this is an interesting thought the other day while I was getting coffee in a croissant from a cafe across the road from work. Maybe we're in a cycle because maybe the AI robots will realize that the most efficient way for them to be able to reproduce is for them to generate something like DNA, which is what builds us. All of us, all animals, plants, everything organic, it's constructed and built out of DNA. Everything living is built out of DNA. And so maybe these robots will do this same thing. They will realize that if they engineer a DNA, that it can reproduce and grow an organic robot. And that organic robot, if the DNA is helical, double helical like ours is, and uses the same four main components, then maybe the AI robots will be succeeded by humans again, or at least, if not humans, at least DNA-based life forms. Let me know if you like this stuff, if you're interested in this, please subscribe or share with your friends or leave me a comment because, yeah, if this is fun, I might keep doing this.